I told you I was on your side. I told you I would never hide. So you can put your hand in mine, 'cause I'll be keeping by your side. I'll love you till the stars turn cold, and I'll love you like this ring I hold. Yes, around it goes, a circle never knows the end of the line. So you will find with our love, 'cause this love is a band of gold. When the fire's burning and when the embers feel cold. So when I hold you in my arms, I hope you know.
Hello and welcome to the Goldberry Artisans podcast. This is a podcast mostly about knitting, but also about occasionally other crafts and about learning as you go and being okay with making mistakes. My name is Emily. I'm coming to you from the beautiful state of Maine, and yeah, I think you can find show notes for everything I mentioned in this episode at goldberryartisans.com. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for stopping by to watch my little podcast. Woo, that is going to get annoying. And welcome to any new viewers. So that is going to bug me. Hold on. But yeah. Anyway, let's jump right into the knitting, what I have been making this week. I do not have any finished objects. I have a half-finished object, and I have two projects that are so close to being off the needles. They're so close. I can't even take it. Oh my goodness. This camera setup is going to drive me nuts. Alright, the first project that I'm going to talk about today is this. This is the front of my, what I'm calling To Waken Up the Flowers sweater, which is the Stonecutter pattern by Michelle Wong. So yes, this is the front. I'm so close to being done. Oh my goodness. Basically, I'm partway through the armhole shaping, and then I just have neck shaping and the rest of the armhole shaping. Neckband, and then done. I did, this seems to be a theme if you watch my last episode and then this one. I was running out of yarn. I was going to run out of yarn before I finished this project. So I ordered 2 new skeins directly from Quince & Co., which was very nice because last time I tried to look on their website for this specific colorway, they were out of stock like forever. But they had some, so I ordered some. But of course, it is a different dye lot. So you can see there's a little bit of striping going on here as I am finishing up the old yarn and working in the new yarn. So there's definitely going to be some color variation, which sadly is unavoidable. You can actually, I think you can see it a little bit better on the back, just because it's more smooth stockinette. But yeah, you can definitely see. And I was working on this last night, and I was like, it's not that bad, but now that I see it in the sunlight, yeah, you can see it. Which is a bummer. Stinks to work so hard on it and have that prop at the end. But that's my own fault. The risk I ran when I ordered the yarn off of a D-stash page on Ravelry, because it was cheaper, but then I didn't, it was older yarn, and I didn't have the option to order extra skeins or anything. So my next sweater project, definitely going to make sure I have enough. Yeah. And I'll talk about next sweater project soon. I'll talk about that later. And this is my oh so fancy progress keeper. I didn't have any progress keepers or stitch markers or anything nearby, but I needed to mark the row that the armhole began on. Because I find it's way easier to measure from the middle like, because I have to work the armholes until they measure a certain length. But it's way harder to be measuring like from way over here up to where the stitches are. It's much easier to just measure in the middle of the sweater. So I just have a little bobby pin right there to keep track of where I need to measure from. Yeah, so that's so close to being done. I'd like to have that done by the end of the month. It's been on my needles like since spring, maybe April, May, something like that. It's all getting a little ridiculous. The other project that I have, well, my half-finished object is a sock. This is the first of my summer Twilight socks. This is the Rose City Rollers pattern, and the yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply in the wood picking colorway. I knit like all of this in just like an hour. It was crazy. Yeah, not a whole lot to say about them. I tried it on, they fit well, and I need to do the other one. Oh, also, I was working on them. I was in my Sunday school class at church, and I get to the toe and I wanted to finish it, but I did not have my notions bag or needle or anything, so I actually just did a 3-needle bind off. Hoping you can see that okay. Which I never really thought about doing that before. But then I was watching Lily from the Nordic Stitches podcast talk about how she does a 3-needle bind off on socks. And I just watched that podcast episode where she talked about that, and then the next day I get to this point in the sock. So yeah, there's a little bit more. There's like the pearl bump on the back. I feel like I should have like flipped it. Probably should have flipped it inside out because the inside is nice and smooth. I honestly haven't done very many 3-needle bind offs, so I was just like knitting along. I was like, oh, I'll just do this right now. So the seam ended up on the outside rather than on the inside. But I don't care. I'm fine with that. I haven't decided yet whether or not I'm going to attempt to match up the stripes on the second sock, because the color repeat that I ended on is the same as what I started on. So, but I think I still have a very good amount of yarn, so I might just wind off a bit of this and start it at the same point. Because this time, when I cast this on, I made sure that I did a long tail cast on, and I made my slip knot at the end of one color repeat and at the beginning of another one. At that point in the yarn, so that I would know for sure where to make my long tail cast on so that the stripes would actually match. Because that's always my problem with striped socks, is that I just start the first one, don't even think about it, and then sometimes the second one I will attempt to match it up, but since I just started in the middle of a color repeat, it doesn't really work out that well. So yes, those are my summer Twilight socks. Yeah, I don't really have a lot that I've been more monogamous lately. The socks have really just been like knitting during Sunday school at church. That's basically all the only time I've spent working on that. Because the project that I've probably been spending the most time on is this gorgeous shawl. I'm almost done. I am on the lace border section. I've done 3.5 out of 7 repeats. So this pattern was just released this week. I think it just was released on August 15th. So today I'm recording on August 17th. So it just came out. Yeah, and actually the pattern, let me get all the information here. The pattern is called the Gray Skies Shawl by Naomi Grace Bruette, and she had offered to let me work on the pattern before it was released, just to sort of not to test knit it, but to try it out, to talk about it a little bit, spread the word about this gorgeous shawl. So because of that, she is offering a discount to you, my lovely people. You can use the code HOPE15 on Ravelry to get a 15% discount on this pattern through the end of August. And let me tell you, if you have been holding on to that one special skein, do it. Use it on this one. It's amazing. There you can see a little bit better how this is a skein of hand spun that was gifted to me, sadly not my own. It's really sunny, sorry. You can see just how that works up. It is just an absolutely gorgeous pattern, so easy to follow. It's a super easy lace pattern. This is definitely mindless knitting. It's a large project, but it's mindless knitting. Definitely good for traveling or watching TV. I worked on it while I was reading quite a bit. So, my name for this shawl is called, I've got to remember like the exact, okay, I had to remember the exact wording. It's from a quote. This is my Each Good Day shawl. And so the name for that comes from a quote from The Lord of the Rings, because the hand spun, the colorway name for this fiber is Rivendell. So when I was thinking of what I wanted to name this pattern, my first thought was to look for inspiration in Lord of the Rings. Because if you don't know, Rivendell is where the elves live, or like the capital. I always forget exactly, but it's basically elves live there. In J.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And there's this beautiful quote that says, "Such was the virtue of the land of Rivendell, that soon all fear and anxiety was lifted from their minds. The future, good or ill, was not forgotten, but ceased to have any power over the present. Health and hope grew strong in them, and they were content with each good day as it came, taking pleasure in every meal and in every word and song." So, and as Naomi wrote, she said, "Gray skies is really a juxtaposition of refocusing on the good and the hope that the flowers will bloom after the storm." So, because in her original pattern, this brown section was gray, and then she had a gorgeous, like, pink variegated yarn in here. So this is called the Gray Skies shawl, to remind you that even after the storm, flowers will grow. And she reposted my Rivendell quote. Well, it's not my quote. The quote that I am associating with this shawl. She posted on Instagram, which I thought was cool. So not only is she offering you a discount code, but she is also giving away a pattern to one of my podcast viewers. So I will set up a thread in the Goldberry Artisans Ravelry group, which I am not at all active in. Don't have like anything in there, but it's just really good for giveaways, much easier to pick a winner because the comments are all numbered and everything. So search for Goldberry Artisans in the groups tab on Ravelry. Don't have to be a member to enter. Like I said, I don't do anything in it. No need to be a member. And just tell me what one of your favorite memories from this summer so far has been. I know sadly summer is drawing to a close. So just tell me what one of your favorite summer memories has been from this summer. And you can enter to win this pattern. I love it. And it's an asymmetrical shawl with increasing in size eyelet patterns. Oh, and I mentioned last time, if you watched my previous podcast episode, I had gotten to about, I'd probably gotten to about here in this eyelet section, almost done. And for the small size, this is where you begin this border lace. But I still had so much yarn left, and I still have some of the hand spun left. So I ripped back the few rows of lace that I had done and continued on with the larger size, which I am very happy I did, because I had plenty of hand spun left. I'm going to have plenty of the other yarn, which is Knit Picks Gloss, which is a wool silk blend. There you go. I feel like you can see the shell now. I just love it. I'm so excited for shawl weather. I've knit several shawls this summer and I'm just so excited to wear all of them. So yeah, that's all that I have for knitting works in progress. I do have a little bit of drop spindling spinning to show you. I never know whether I should call drop spindling spinning. I don't know, because I'm spinning yarn, but generally if I hear someone talk about spinning yarn, I automatically think of a spindling wheel. Not a spindling wheel. Ooh, a spinning wheel. So yeah, I never know whether to call it spinning or spindling. I would say I've been working on my drop spindle. So, I'd been neglected. I hadn't really done much on my drop spindle. Well, I hadn't done anything for a couple of months. But then, I did a bit the other day, and my spindle was getting full. Because I had put it like on my to-do list for the day. I bought a new planner for the new school year, which always makes me more inspired to set goals. And it was like 8 o'clock at night, and so I was just like, oh, I'll just crash and watch like a knitting podcast or something on TV. Maybe I'll knit, which is what I do a lot of evenings. But spinning had been on my to-do list, and I hadn't gotten it done. So at first I was like, oh, I guess I'll just move that goal to tomorrow. I won't bother with it today. Then I thought, I have an hour till I go to bed, because I'm a little old woman and I go to bed by 9. But I thought, I have an hour. I can do some spinning. So I spun for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And now I have this little cake of yarn. There we go. This is 33 grams of singles. And this is the first part of my spinning. So this was like the inside when I was, because when I took a drop spindling class this past fall, and so I had some on my spindle from that. Took that off and started with just this, because I'd done a little bit of they had given us some fiber samples in the class, and I just kind of spun all of them all together. So I was still very much getting used to it. It's definitely far from perfect. But this is the very beginning of it, actually. And, sorry, my dog is, he's finding something in the dirt behind me. He's going a little crazy. If you can hear it snuffling and all that good stuff. So this is 33 grams of hand spun. And then this is about, I think I weighed it, 12 or 13 grams on here. I finally weighed my spindle. My spindle is 25 grams. If I ever say I don't remember, I'll just have to remember to watch this episode. So the spindle weighs 25 grams, so now I can just weigh the yarn to see how much I have. And if you can see the difference between this and this. This is much thicker. I was still getting the hang of drafting. I would have to hold the spindle in between my legs or under my arm and draft, then spin a bit, stop it, draft. I think, is that the park and draft or whatever it's called? I don't know what I'm talking about. But then I'm getting much more comfortable with drafting as it spins. So I'll spin it against the side of my leg and let it go, and draft and spin until it stops spinning, and then I just keep going. So, and I typically only have to park it, stop it from spinning, when I get to where I need to wind it onto the spindle. And I don't know how much twist, you're supposed to put in, but I'm not twisting it a lot. I'm trying to keep it very relaxed and soft and loose. I'm trying very hard not to over twist it. So yeah. So all because I put out my to-do list and actually followed through and worked on it. So now I have these 33 grams plus this. And I'm thinking I'll apply them together and knit something with them. I don't know what yet. Depends on how much I make. And so I put this into a cake. Because I recently bought the Knitter's Book of no, the Book of Spinning Yarn. I don't remember exactly what the title is. But I recently bought that, and there's a very small section on drop spindling, and it suggested winding it into a center pull ball. I feel like that probably wasn't how I held the spindle to do it. Wasn't maybe the best idea, because I don't know if I lost any twist or anything. But that was a good idea, to wind it into a center pull ball, so then I could ply it from the inside strand and from the outside strand in order to make a 2-ply, which I thought was a brilliant idea. So yeah, that is my spindling, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so I'm very excited, and I hope to keep working that a little bit more consistently. We'll see how that goes. Oh, and the fiber that I'm spinning is some naked BFL fiber from Port Fiber, which they have a shop in Portland, Maine, and an Etsy shop. And this is what the fiber looks like. Yeah. And so I had bought this last summer. I was trying to teach myself how to drop spindle, and I went into Port Fiber, and Casey Ryder, who's the owner, was there. And so I wandered around for a little bit, and then I asked her, because she said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, or if you need help. I told her that I was new to drop spindling, and so I asked her what fiber she thought would be good for a beginner, and she suggested this, and it's been a lot of fun to work with. It's soft, soft, but not like overly soft, not like it's gonna slip through my hand soft. I don't really know anything about staple length, I don't know. But it's been fun because it's not like a cool dyed fiber, but it has these, like, it's got the brown and the white. It's a mixed BFL, so I'm assuming it's probably from different sheep, which is fun to spin, to see that twisting up creates some interest. So yeah, I started out as 4.2 ounces. I don't know how much is left in this right now, but it's been a lot of fun to work with. Ooh, dog. You knock over this tripod. His lead, Gridley is our dog, his lead is like against the back leg of the tripod because he's very interested in something that he can smell. Who knows? Gridley. Good boy. So yeah, that is my spindling. Again, I don't know, somebody help me, I don't know what to call it. But I figured if, like, eventually I do want to take a spinning class, and I thought that any practice I can get in on a drop spindle will be really helpful. Just because I know once you get done spinning wheel, it's so much faster. So I really want to practice that drafting while spinning motion. Just draft evenly. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today, I'm a little all over the place. I didn't have time to write out show notes, which I normally like to do just to organize how I'm going to say everything, so bear with me. The last thing I wanted to talk about today was my next sweater project. Forgot to bring the pattern out with me. I'll put a picture up, but I think I mentioned this last time. The next sweater project that I'm currently thinking about and starting to plan is the Telja pattern by Jennifer Steingrass. It was in the By Hand Cereal Portland, Maine issue, and it is available. You can just search for Telja on Ravelry, it'll pop right up, and you can purchase it on there. So I was trying to think of what yarn to use. It calls for a light worsted yarn, I believe. And I thought about using Quince & Co. Lark, which, as I neglected to mention, I'm using in my cable sweater. And I thought about using that, but then I was like, well, this would be a good chance to try something different. It's colorwork, so maybe try one of those yarns that, I don't know, just something that a lot of people use for colorwork. Possibly, something Shetland or Icelandic, just something different. And so eventually I decided that I would want to try Plotulopi. See, this is the con of not having show notes. Now I don't have all the information right here to tell you about Plötulopi. But Plötulopi, it's Icelandic yarn. It's unspun. So you can see it's unspun. It's put in this. It's called a plate, and you set it down and you knit from the plate. And I do know that people talk about how it will split apart because it's unspun, but then it's so super easy to use water or spit to splice it back together and just keep going, and that it does knit up into a strong, soft garment. So and it's 328 yards per plate, and I did a yarn swap. I was looking on Ravelry to see if anyone was destashing this, and I did find someone who was, but instead of just selling it, she was interested in doing a yarn swap. So I swapped. I had some Letlopi and a skein of sock yarn. She went through my stash pages and picked out those things out, and so we traded. And so now I have 3 full plates of Plötulopi, and then this one that's been partially used. But that's good because the 3 plates is almost exactly the yardage that I need for the Telgla sweater, and so this I can use to experiment and swatch because I'm trying to figure out what colors I want to use. Okay, so Plötulopi is an unspun wool made by the company let me see if I can get this right. I'll read you the description from the Woolly Thistle, which is where I was going to buy Plötulopi if nothing that I wanted had been on D-Stash, and it's where I'm going to buy my accent colors for the color work. So, Plötulopi, this unique wool from Iceland is a bit like pencil roving in that it's unspun. It is light and airy with a long staple. Used in a single strand, this wool is wonderful for lace or sweaters. Work with 2 strands for typical Icelandic pullovers, jackets, scarves, hats, and mittens, or 3 or 4 strands for coats and blankets. So yeah, then it just says it's delicate, but don't let that put you off. Carefully unwind it, don't tug it, and you can splice it back together. It's technically a sport weight. It's 100% new Icelandic wool. Comes with 328 yards per 100 grams per plate. And it's listed as a sport weight, but then the gauge is 19 stitches over 4 inches with size 7 needles. And actually the gauge on Telgla is something like 20 stitches over 4 inches with size 5 needles. So I'm thinking that even though this is, because the Telgla calls for it light worsted or DK, so I think, and I looked at the Telgla sweater gauge and the Plötulopi gauge, and I think I should be good. But that's why I'm glad that I have this bit of extra yarn to do some swatching, see how it blocks, play around with gauge, figure that all out. I'm trying to be better at not just casting on sweater patterns, but really like thinking about it and thinking about the yarn that I'm using and how it behaves, and I want to have that little bit of extra yarn to play with and to do some gauge swatching. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm thinking of having like some cream or some tan brown colors for the color work. Originally in the pattern it has 4 contrasting colors. It has a white, which is sort of the main contrasting color, and then light, medium, and dark gray. I'll put up a picture of the color work so you can see what I'm talking about how in those little diamond shapes, some have medium gray, some have the dark gray, some have the light gray. But then the contrasting colors, you only need 80 yards of the white. Well, you need 220 yards of the white, and then less than 100 for each of the other contrasting colors. And I didn't really want to buy 4 whole plates of Plötulopi, which has 328 yards in it, for that small amount. So I think I'm going to like combine two of the contrasting colors and just like combine the light and medium grays and just use the same color for both for where those two are used in the pattern. So then have a little bit less, and then try to come up with some other project to use the leftover Plotolopi for. Maybe some other color work, maybe mittens, hats, scarves, I don't know. But yeah, it's exciting. That is, I have another sweater project that I've been kind of mulling over and trying to figure out, but I'll update that a little bit more once I've thought about it a little bit more. I ordered I'll be using Quince & Co. Lark again. That much I know because I have 9 skeins of it in my stash. 9 skeins of their twig colorway, which is a nice brown color. And then just yesterday I ordered one of their color cards, a Quince & Co. color card, because there is a store near me, like 40 minutes away from me, that sells Quince & Co. But I want to go in there with a general idea of what colors I want. Because I find to go into a yarn store and try to pick out colors like that I'd be so overwhelmed. So I want to at least have a general idea of the kinds of colors that I want to use, because I'm thinking of making a colorwork sweater, like colorwork yoke. So I'm still trying to figure out what pattern I want, and then the color cards will help me in that, I think, because then I can figure out how many colors do I want to have in this pattern. Do I want just one contrasting color? Do I want more? So figure all that out. But when I was looking through patterns, I'd already decided on Telja for the Plotolopi. That one I knew. When I was looking through on Ravelry, I just put in that I wanted to make a sweater, that I wanted it to use worsted weight yarn, and then the yardage. And so I was like, just to have a vague idea, start figuring out what kind of sweater I wanted. But I kept being drawn to cable patterns, like heavily textured patterns. And I click on it. Oh, guess what? It was published through Brooklyn Tweed. Oh, wait a minute. I have a massive cabled sweater published by Brooklyn Tweed that I've been working on for months and months and months. So I had to kind of talk myself down off of that leg because they're gorgeous patterns, but they do take so long. And I don't have enough. I didn't have enough yarn to really do one, because you put in the yardage, and so they're like, oh, this pattern uses that yardage, yeah, for the extra small. I am not an extra small. So, but I think 2 colorwork sweaters and then a cabled sweater will again be on my mind. I love cables. They're so squishy and they look so good. Especially like in this yarn. Can we just appreciate the stitch definition from Quince & Co. Lark? Like that's, I love it. I just love it so much. I'm not a big just like plain stockinette all the way person. I can buy that kind of sweater in a store, which I love wearing hand knit sweaters obviously, but I have some of those in my wardrobe already that I did not make. But this, I cannot just go pick this up in a store and appreciate it like I can this. So, yeah. I don't know, sweaters, I love hand knit sweaters, but I tend to wear pullovers more often. For me, cardigans are like I put a short sleeve shirt on today and then I get cold so I put a cardigan on. And so I like to just have very basic cardigans and basic colors. But pullovers, I don't have to try to match a top and a bottom for pullovers. I can just wear a neutral colored bottom and throw like a neutral colored maxi skirt and throw a pullover sweater on and I feel fabulous. So I'm drawn to more pullover sweaters than I am cardigans. So, and plus I find with pullovers, it's just a little bit easier to tell if it's going to fit. Like I can hold this up to me and just go like, oh yeah, that should fit, that's a good size. Cardigans I just find harder to do that with, and so the last time I knit a cardigan it turned out too small. So, yeah. Which, obviously, if I just do a gauge swatch and make sure that I make adjustments if necessary, it shouldn't be that bad. But that's a lot of work. But I'm drawn to knitting the heavily textured or the heavily textured patterns is what I've knit before. Because I think I have, like, I have 4 hand knit sweaters total. One of them is the cardigan that's too small that I keep convincing myself that I will fit into if I just, work hard enough. Which, considering the fact that I don't work out at all, I'm foolish. But so I have cardigan that's a little too small. I have a fingering weight sweater with a very small amount of color work at the yoke that I knit earlier this year. And then I have 2 other sweaters. One of them is a heavily cabled all over cables. The other one has cables down the front. So I'm just a fan, kind of block the sun. I'm just a fan of colorwork sweaters and heavily cabled sweaters. I haven't knit a lot of colorwork sweaters, but I love knitting colorwork in general. So I have this notebook. I decided I need to start writing down my sweater plans, because I love looking at patterns on Ravelry and adding things to my queue, but to work through it and process it and figuring out, especially for a colorwork sweater, what other kind of yarn I will need. I just have it written down. I just have, for this one, this is my telja, so I have the pattern, what size I'm going to make, because sometimes I forget what size I decided on. And then how much of each yarn I will need, each color, and then just and for this one I had to write down because the chart in the pattern wasn't super obvious. Oh, looking at the chart, oh, this color is contrast color 1, which you need this much yarn of, this is contrast color 2. So I just wrote it down here, okay, in the pattern photos, white is contrast color 1, this is contrast color 2. So just so I could keep it straight when planning out what kind of yarn I wanted to use. And then just what yarn I will need to buy, or what yarn I already have. And I'm also brainstorming on my other sweater for color ideas. And then I was just I give up, I'm ordering a color card. Because even looking on the Quince & Co website, looking at the twig colorway, which is what I have, it looked different on the screen than it did in my hand. So I thought, you know what, I'll be safe. I'll get a color card. So yeah, I feel like a real knitter now. It's the first time I've ever bought a color card. So I apologize for that bright sunlight. It was not that bright when I thought about recording. Or maybe it was and I just pretended it wasn't. So anyway, I've been rambling for a long time now. Yeah, that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. So I hope that until I see you next time, you are having a fabulous week and that you are learning from your mistakes and just having fun creating. Oh, and don't forget to use the code HOPE15 to get 15% off the Gray Skies pattern, and go over to the Ravelry group, Goldberry Artisans, to enter the giveaway to win a free copy of the pattern. So until I see you next time, bye!
I told you I was on your side. I told you I would never hide. So you can put your hand in mine, 'cause I'll be keeping by your side.